Am I the jerk for defending my partner because my friend called my partner controlling who comes to my doctor appointments all the time? Hello everybody, I think a little bit of backstory is needed for this situation. My boyfriend, who is 24 years old and male, and I, who am 24 years old and female, have been dating for 2.5 years. My boyfriend is studying medicine and it is his last year. The hospital where he interns is the best hospital in my city, and it might be the best in the state. Whenever I need to go to the doctor, I try to arrange my appointments when he is at the hospital so that he can come with me. The hospital is quite big and he helps me with that. Also, having someone with you for your appointments is quite good overall. He actually comes into the doctor with me during the consultations. I sometimes panic during the appointments and tend to forget what doctors say, so he reminds me. Usually I do not have any problems with that. When I do not want him in, I tell him and he waits for me outside. The issue is that I recently had surgery on my nose because I had septum deviation. I had a follow-up appointment 2 weeks after the surgery, and my boyfriend also came with me. In the appointment, they looked into my nose with a thin camera and viewed it on a television screen to see the stitches and the overall healing process. My boyfriend watched it all. After the appointment, I met with my friend and told her about it. She was shocked that my boyfriend came into the appointment and watched the camera footage of my nose. She said that it is very controlling of him to go into the appointment with me and listen to everything the doctor says. I explained to her that I actually prefer him in there since he is also a doctor and eases my panic. She told me that I act like someone who is incapable of handling her own appointments and that he is probably disgusted by me because he saw the inside of my nose. She said that the inside of someone's nose is a disgusting place for a partner to see. She finally concluded that I actually take away the time that he should spend on his patients. I told her that they work in rotation, so he comes in when his colleague is working and he is free, but she did not budge. All she tried to talk about was these 3 topics. Whenever I tried to change the topic, she would not let me. Throughout this conversation, she spoke in a calm and sweet but demanding tone. She did not sound mad or anything, so if I snapped at her, I thought I would overreact. The whole evening was weird, and I left shortly after my efforts to change the topic. Now I am ashamed that my boyfriend saw the inside of my nose. How should I talk to my friend about how it bothered me, or should I act like nothing happened? In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. Your boyfriend being present at your doctor's appointments, especially given his medical background and your comfort with his support, is about what works best for you, not about control. If a relationship can survive seeing inside someone's nose, it can probably survive a lot. As for your friend, her comments seem to overstep some boundaries and project her own issues onto your situation. Clear communication can often clear up misunderstandings, but it might be worth reconsidering the role of this friend in your life given her apparent lack of respect. Am I the jerk for not watching my in-laws' incontinent dog at my house while I'm 32 weeks pregnant? My husband and in-laws are traveling out of state in a month to my brother-in-law's wedding. They will be gone for 4 to 5 days. I will be 32 weeks pregnant and have already been having a lot of back pain issues. I just started a new job that is more intensive than expected. I also homeschool my 3 children, and we have livestock and many animals of our own to care for. Initially, I said I would go over to their house to take care of their cats and dog, and they could keep their bird at our house. This was already going to be a lot for me with all the other responsibilities and being pregnant. I recommended having someone else come over a couple of times earlier in the day to let the dog out. The other day, my father-in-law said we would have to keep the dog at our house. I was in a haze of exhaustion from working all day and having a bad cold, and just sort of nodded along without thinking about it. Then he started explaining that the dog is incontinent and will need to be cleaned off since he is peeing and having diarrhea on himself all day. Someone will need to sit with him constantly because he will whine all day, and will likely still whine all day anyway. After I had a chance to clear my mind, I told my husband I do not think this is a good idea because I am not going to be able to do all my normal stuff. All his normal stuff, plus go to their house to care for their other animals, and clean up dog pee and diarrhea all day. I already cannot stand smells as it is because of the pregnancy and get severe back pain and dizziness from bending over. My husband became very upset, said there is no other option, said I was being selfish and putting his parents in a bad situation. Then today my husband told his parents, and they started yelling about how they have no one else to watch the dog. They said we already agreed to do it and they are so stressed out. Considering this, I do not understand why they do not just hire a pet sitter for the time they are gone. If I were not pregnant, I would try to make it work. But I am already completely exhausted and barely keeping up with my regular responsibilities. I have expressed this multiple times throughout the pregnancy. They have seen me fall asleep at gatherings because of the exhaustion. They have known about this wedding for a year and have not tried to find anyone to care for the animals. The usual people they would have are also going to the wedding. Only recently did we propose the solution of me watching them, not them bringing the dog here though. Only a few days ago did my father-in-law suggest the dog coming to our house, so it is not like it has been months that they have been expecting me to do this. You are not the jerk. Your husband and in-laws definitely are though. You know that having the dog would make your house dirty and smelly, which is the last thing needed when you're 36 weeks pregnant. They can board the dog at a kennel or vet office. It's their problem and responsibility, not yours. If it's that important, your husband can take time off work to watch the dog at their house, and his parents can cover his lost wages. Am I the jerk for not letting my husband's sister bring a friend to see our new puppy at our house? My husband's sister privately messaged him about bringing a friend to our house tomorrow to see our new puppy. I found it to be a pattern for her to invite herself into our house with her friends or boyfriend, primarily to check out our animals, so I got upset. I am an immigrant, and my family is in another country. We bought a house 30 minutes away from my husband's family 2 years ago. Since then, we have met his sister and parents every week, once at our house and once at his family's. The sister had some visits that crossed my personal boundaries. A year ago, she brought her boyfriend to our house during a weekly meetup unannounced. We had met him a couple of times previously on other occasions. Recently, his sister got a new boyfriend. After a couple of months, she asked to come to our house with the boyfriend. I feel awkward letting new people into our house, so I suggested, my husband sent the message, meeting at a restaurant more officially, but she said she wants him to see the cats. We have 2 cats, which I adopted when I was single 6 years ago. I was overwhelmed by the situation but said yes for my husband. Lately, we got a puppy. His sister brought her boyfriend to our house on a weekly meetup because she wanted him to meet the puppy. She gave us advance notice. Tonight, my husband received a message asking if it is okay for his sister to bring a friend to our house to meet the puppy. I may be overreacting, but here are my triggers. As co-owner of the house, it should take both of us to consent to guest invitations. I am okay with the sister if she is alone, but I am uncomfortable about hosting people I'm not familiar with, even though we might have met them in other places before. 3 of these visits are primarily for checking out the animals. I feel like with new people, it is a bit disrespectful to ignore the host and primarily see the animals. For these events, either we are not notified or she sent the message to my husband directly, even though we have a group chat. I am getting increasingly frustrated because my boundaries are not respected. Every time I complain to my husband, he says she is family. He cannot reject seeing family, even though we have a planned meetup, including the puppy, in 2 days. Tonight, my husband basically said he would not ask for my consent and just wants whoever he likes to come. He ignored my feelings and said my expectations are totally unreasonable. When we talked about how it is unfair that my family never gets to even meet us every week, my husband just said, they can come at any time, as if they could just randomly pop up from the other side of the world. He thinks that should not impact the frequency of his family visiting him, despite the fact that some of these are his sister inviting herself over randomly with almost strangers in our house. It would have been nice if my husband stepped in earlier, but he keeps avoiding the conflict and trying to bully me into saying yes to his family. Nothing you have done here makes me think you are the jerk here. Your husband needs to respect your boundaries and understand that the home is your safe place, not just a hangout spot for his sister and her friends. It seems like he's prioritizing his family's wants over your needs, which isn't fair. You both need to set healthy boundaries to avoid building resentment and ensure that your home remains a shared space for just the 2 of you. Am I the jerk for telling my sibling they can't have alcohol? Over the past year, my sister, who is 45 years old, has had an obsession with hard seltzers. To others, this may not be a problem, but she is diabetic and is what we would call non-compliant. Even if those seltzers only have a gram of sugar in them, she is the type to drink 5 or 6 in a sitting almost every weekend. Almost without fail, every 2 weeks on payday, she comes back home with 2 to 4 cases of the seltzers, and I, who am 22 years old, shake my head at her every time. Because of her drinking habits and diabetes, I have had to rush her to the emergency room a few times because her sugar was extremely high. There was one night she came to my room to ask if I would take her to the emergency room at 2 in the morning. Mind you, she did not have these problems when she was not drinking. When I told her and the rest of our family that her blood sugar problems are most likely because of how many of those things she drinks, they would tell me that it is fine, she is an adult. My other sister, who is 43 years old, would say that she was way worse when they were in their 20s. She would drink all night and drink beer in the morning to sober up worse. But I am 22, so I never saw that side of her, and she did not have her diabetes then, which was a result of medication. Since she started drinking again, I have had to take her to the hospital at least 3 times, not including the time she asked our other sister to take her. Around the latter half of last year, I told her that if I was taking her to the store, she would not be getting alcohol and putting it in my car. My family, mainly my dad and other sister, got upset with me, saying that if she wanted to get a case, she should be able to. They said that she is not as bad as she was, and that I was not there to experience it. But that is the issue. I was not there to experience it, and the issues I see now are concerning. Every time she asks me to go to the grocery store or the gas station, I tell her, yeah, but you will not be putting alcohol in my car, and she gets an attitude with me every time and either goes to tattle on me to either our dad or sister. I have brought up my worry to them, explaining that the amount she drinks is messing with her blood sugar, but they all just brush me off. Every time they say, she is an adult. And yeah, she is, but it is my car, my rules. If I say no alcohol in my car, then no alcohol in my car. My family's reactions are starting to make me think that maybe I am being too hard on the whole thing. Am I wrong for making the rule, or am I just being dramatic? I think you are not in the wrong here. While your sister is an adult and can make her own choices, you're also an adult with the right to set boundaries. Every time you rescue her, you are enabling her, and it's reasonable to stop taking care of her in that way. She needs to get her act together, and it's not fair for you to be responsible for her actions. Am I the jerk for telling my sibling they are to blame for our family issues? God, this is such a mess, and I'll try to keep it as short as possible. My brother was with his ex for almost 10 years. They were high school sweethearts. They divorced in their late 20s. They had no children. While my family wasn't very fond of the ex, we tolerated her. She wasn't a horrible person, just didn't fit our family very well. After about 2 years, my brother finally got enough confidence to get back out onto the dating scene and met Kayla. My family absolutely adored Kayla, especially our mother. They bonded very quickly and became friends. They would see each other at least once a week to shop, grab dinner, or do cross-stitching, which both my mother and Kayla love. They dated for about 2 years. Around 6-7 months ago, my brother decided to dump Kayla. He and his ex-wife decided to get back together to give it a second shot. Kayla was obviously heartbroken, but with my mom's support and her friends, she's been getting through it. To say I was upset with my brother would be an understatement. I was already very angry at him for going back to his ex. Within the last month, he's been telling my mother that he will go low contact with her if she keeps Kayla around as her friend. He says her being around all the time makes him uncomfortable, and she needs to reduce the friendship or he will go low contact. For the record, my mother doesn't invite her over when he is around. It is on her personal time that she does this. My father, who doesn't want to lose contact with my brother, has been trying to convince my mother to end the friendship because he's family. My mom is obviously upset because she doesn't want to lose her son or her friend. She and my dad have been arguing about it, according to her. I talked to my brother the other week and told him that all these problems stem from him and that they are his fault. Telling mom who she can be friends with is awful. He told me that he isn't comfortable with it, and if she's willing to give up a relationship with her son for someone she's known only 2 years, that's her prerogative. He hung up on me after that. Am I the asshole? Everyone sucks here. JFC, let the brother live his own life. He sucks for trying to dictate their mom's friendships, but it's not anyone else's place to act like it has anything to do with them. I'm really curious about all the missing info. Why the ex was so disliked, and why Kayla was so beloved. If the mom is friends with Kayla but keeps her separate from family functions, what's the problem? Am I the jerk for not telling my spouse I created an emergency fund without telling them? When I first got married, I sold some personal things and put the money in an emergency fund for unexpected expenses, such as a roof leak, job loss, or emergency room visit. My goal was to be able to survive a large unexpected expense or a few months of no income without going under financially because of it. I had items of value I could sell but very little cash available, and my wife had virtually no cash available. We had plans to make enough to support ourselves with a little over the bare necessities, but not by much. I did not tell my spouse about doing it, partly because I did not want her to feel bad that I had sold things that, while not critical, I wanted. Partly because I did not want her to consider it when making financial decisions, as it was supposed to be an emergency-only fund. I could see rebuying the items if we ever became financially stable and could create an emergency fund on our own later. It never touched our joint income or expenses, normal accounts, and for all intents and purposes would not impact our shared finances if not used. She was raised making poor financial decisions. It was not necessarily her fault, as you only know what you know. But I still worried about how she might feel or react knowing there was substantial money that could be quickly accessed. We have shared finances and try to make joint decisions for large purchases. It came up recently. When it came up, she felt that I had kept extensive financial secrets, failed to be appropriately honest and transparent, made decisions on her behalf, showed I do not believe in her ability to make good financial choices, disrespected her, and she is generally crushed and says she cannot trust me. It was not malicious, and I had no negative or bad intentions. However, I did keep it from her, and it was partly because her history prior to and since has shown poor financial choices as she claims. Am I the asshole for not telling my spouse I created and did not disclose an emergency fund with my personal items? There are no jerks here, OP. The money was from selling personal items and setting up a fund, which is totally responsible. It's reasonable for her to feel hurt because she thought all financial information was shared, but she needs to set up her own savings to practice good financial habits. Separate finances can be healthy for a relationship and ensure preparedness for emergencies. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.